has absolutely decimated our constitutional republic. It is complicit. And are we still waiting for Mr. Whitehead to join us? Okay. All right. We're waiting for Mr. Whitehead to connect with us. He will be connecting us. As a matter of fact, that'll give me an opportunity to tell you a little bit more about him. Mr. Whitehead actually serves as the Rutherford Institute's president and spokesperson, in addition to writing a weekly commentary that is posted on the Rutherford Institute's website. And I'm going to tell you, if you do not go to the Rutherford.org, it's called Rutherford.org, okay, and subscribe to his newsletters that he publishes. They're absolutely amazing, and he is absolutely spot on when it comes to calling out the system for what it is. I'll give you an example of a couple of articles that he's recently published. The Rutherford Institute asked the U.S. Supreme Court to reject government censorship, protect a specialty license plates as private free speech under the First Amendment. He also talks about rights to privacy, travel, and association. Or do we have Mr. Whitehead is on? Okay, we're A-OK. Fantastic. John Whitehead, I gave you an introduction. And welcome back to the Pete Santilli Show, sir. If you don't mind, of course, we'll talk about the things that are happening, especially as it relates to the Supreme Court recently ruling that DNA collection is to be allowed in the United States of America. We'll talk about that. Before we get into that, have you been following the case of Pastor Ken Hovind? Oh, there we go. Go ahead. We have you. Mr. Whitehead, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on, Pete.
Yeah, thank you for coming back. Have you been following Pastor Ken Hovind's case down there in Pensacola?
Reading about, yeah. We've offered to help. The attorney there at this time said he doesn't really need it. So,
I think
his lawyer.
You know, let me ask you this, and we've been covering it every single day. But what are we the people to do when a federal judge is that far out of control? The judge has demonstrated bias. The judge has demonstrated that she really is just about seeking to persecute this particular Christian man. When a rogue judge operates the way she operates, what recourse do we the people have?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm a lawyer. I practiced in the courts for 40 years, and what I tell people is when you enter that courtroom, if you're charged with a crime, you're facing three basic forces, and they work together: the police, the prosecutor, and the judge. I mean, you're automatically guilty when you walk into a criminal court. So that's why very few people ever get off if you're accused of a crime. I don't, Pete, if you ever got a speeding ticket or any ticket locally and you go into a court, who's the judge going to listen to? You, if you disagree with the policeman, or the policeman? So we know. This is something that, again, is not just happening to one individual. It's happening across the country. If you don't remember the case of Brandon Robb, the Marine that was jerked out of his home for Facebook posts and put in a mental hospital?
Yes, sir.
We filed a federal case. The judge in the federal case said that allegations that the government may be under the Operation Vigilant program, Operation Vigilant Eagle, which is a program under the Department of Homeland Security where they target veterans. He said it was too far-fetched. He didn't really believe they were enforcing it, so he dismissed that issue. We've appealed that. Now, the judge didnऩ do any research there. He just dismissed it because he didn't believe it. So, what I'm seeing across the game, and we talk about, the Supreme Court approving DNA collection. Of course, they're going to do it. What you're dealing with is a corrupt system they're all in bed together. Basically, they're freaked out. Generally, the so-called elite in America by the rebels out there, what they conceive as rebels. And I fight in the courts, but let me tell you, let's see, when I got out of law school in the 70s, it was a bit easier, let's put it that way. I would say right now, navigating through the courts of this country, the federal courts, some state courts, it's very, very difficult. So what are you to do? You fight the cases, you go outside, you can pick it, but the problem with judges is they're so isolated. They arrive in limos, they leave in limos, they're surrounded by police. So who do you think they're going to support? Well, we see it with the Supreme Court. We have a case with Harold Hodge, who is the 45-year-old African-American who stood in front of the Supreme Court with a sign on a snowy day. No one was on the Supreme Court plaza. No one at all. 2 guards arrested him for holding a sign saying that he thought it said police abuse African-Americans and Hispanics. There's an actual congressional law saying that's illegal. We filed a case, and a judge actually ruled in our favor. It violated the First Amendment. The next day, Justice Roberts issued his own regulation outlawing it. Now, we have to appeal to the Supreme Court. They've already ruled.
Now, sir, you're speaking of course, what happens in the courtroom and that battle that takes place, and it's an uphill battle for the average citizen. I want to, if you don't mind, I'd like to address the question, what happens outside of the courtroom to hold a judge accountable? When a judge, I mean, we have a case here where there were witnesses that heard a judge, this Judge Rogers, and I'm sure that this isn't the first time it's ever happened, but a judge making a comment on the record. That record was modified. That's an illegal activity. She's demonstrated bias. What recourse do we, the people, have outside of the courtroom to make sure?
You can get a lawyer and file ethics complaints in the state court, federal courts against the judge. You can do those kind of things. But again, those are very, very difficult. It's all kind of formalities that the system's designed to protect those in power. So I'm trying to, you know what I talk about out there when I write about. I'm trying to wake people up to the fact that we don't really live in the country that Jefferson, Adams, and those people give us. That no longer exists, folks. We moved into a police state, a surveillance state. We can talk more about that in a minute, but you have no privacy anymore. They're hacking into your Facebook pages. They're sending informants into groups to work with them. The FBI admits they have 15,000 paid informants that infiltrate groups, radio stations included, who work as employees or volunteers. They're watching everything. So they're worried about a so-called contingent out there. The Bundy Ranch thing. They're worried about there's going to be occasional rebellions out there, and that's enough to freak out the people living in the gated communities and the Supreme Court judges who, again, are chauffeured to and from work, guarded by a coterie of armed police, private police probably. And again, and this is another thing most people understand, and it'll be my column's going out later this afternoon. There's more private police running around this country than there are public police. They're arresting people, shooting them. People don't realize a lot of policemen you're dealing with today are not really paid on public payroll. They're paid by corporate entities that work with the government. So the average American is not paying attention. If you're not paying attention, someone walks and hits you in the back of the head before you know it. And that's what's happened.
And the world and the country has changed dramatically since your first appearance. And you've said it. You said in the beginning, and I'm not just saying this to suck up to you, but you said that things were going to get much worse before people start to realize what's going on. But I think that that tyranny is deeply embedded. Our constitutional republic is just about gone. Our privacy it's just out the window, and a lot of Americans feel a sense of despair, like there's absolutely nothing we can do. Can you give us some sense of hope as to what we'll have to say it again, what the people need to do with respect to militant, nonviolent resistance? We must resist this thing if we ever want to avoid being enslaved, don't we?
I agree with that, but again, it's going to take some preparatory steps. People are going to have to turn off their TV sets. The Americans are watching 150 hours of television a month. The average American, if you're doing that, you're sitting and watching. You're being controlled. If you're continually looking at some kind of stream device, and here's the thing: if you're continually watching something run by 6 corporations, 6 mega corporations run everything that we watch in this country, you realize that what they don't report is important. They don't report a lot of information that we would consider important. They don't cover the SWAT team raids and a lot of the shootings and stuff that concern African Americans. So,
Mr. Whitehead,
you're going to have to read up. You're going to have to get out there and read the books, the articles. There's good stuff out there, but you're going to have to get up and get active. Get down to your local city councils, get involved.
You know, let's do me a favor. We have to take a short break here. When we come back, we'll talk about the police state. We'll talk about a reality show and also your most recent article about what's happening through forced collection of our biomaterial, our DNA, and stuff like that. You can stay with me. Can you stay with me through the break?
Yes, sir. I'll be glad to.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. John Whitehead from the Rutherford Institute, right after this.